morning, good day, good evening, good night, wherever you dialed in from. Appreciate you dialing in for another one of our lessons. We are looking at session 12, faithfulness. Now, we have been going through the books of Joshua, Judges, and now for the last two sessions in this quarter, we are looking at Ruth. It's a very important book. It's a small book, but it's a very important book nonetheless. It's one of those that I feel is one of those hinges in history where you zoom in on this situation in the midst of everything going on, and something very special happens. And we're going to discuss that in detail with both of these lessons. So I hope you just tune in to listen to what we're talking about and dealing with. So, very important stuff. So a question I give you: how might faith in God's care and control help a person navigate grief and fear? Okay, so that's an interesting question. How might faith in God? Well, it makes a big difference, right? If I really trust God with all my heart, soul, and everything, the peace will be there to take it day by day. And I've learned over time that, in watching and seeing the many points in my past where God has taken care of me, the more that I dwell and see on that and dwell on those situations where God has taken care of me, the greater my comfort is in regards to trusting God with things going forward. So faith has a lot to do with it, navigating fear and grief. Wow, yeah, it can be. It would be it the loss of a loved one, the loss of a family member, divorce, separation, many things like that come in our life. Loss of job, a lot of that thing is pretty scary. It's a lot of profound things that can happen in our lives. But if we have that faith in front of us, and we have that faith in practice, it makes it. It doesn't make it easier on the heart to, but trusting God with tomorrow, it has a great effect on our thinking, does it not? It's not easy, never is, but trusting God, especially when we see that He works and puts us on a completely different level, is just astounding. It really is. So, all right, so we're going to get into the first part and talk briefly about this. So to give a background of what's going on is in the book of Ruth. What we have going on? Well, we have this lady Naomi and her husband Abimelech. What's his name here? Well, let me see. His name is Elimelech. Okay, so her and her husband. What's going on in the background. This takes place during the time of Judges. And of course, as you know, there's a lot of social and political and religious instability. There's a lot of fighting and a lot of chaos going on. And now we got a famine on top of that. So what goes on in Israel? There's a famine. So this family decides to go to Moab. So while Naomi and her husband and their two boys are there in Moab, the boys get married to these two Moab women, which are Ruth and Orpah is the name of the girls. Okay, so Naomi's husband passes away. To make matters worse, the two boys pass away. So Naomi is widowless and she is childless now. She's a widow and she's childish now. Childless. So yeah, so she decides, you know what, I'm gonna go when things get a little better. She goes, okay, I'm gonna go back home to Israel. And she implores the ladies to stay there. She wants Orpah and Ruth to stay there. So that's the beginning of what we're talking about here. So after husband had died, after she brings them in Moab, then she loses her two sons. So in wake of this just tragedy, she decides to return home to Judah. So now she's talking to her daughter-in-laws. So we look at Ruth 1:11 through 15. But Naomi replied, "Return home, my daughters. Why do you want to go with me? Am I able to have more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. Go on, for I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there would be still hope for me, I have husband tonight and bear sons. Would you be willing to wait for them to grow up? Would you restrain yourselves from remarrying? No, my daughters. My life is too bitter for you to share because the Lord's hand has turned against me." And they wept loudly, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. Naomi said, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people, to her gods. Follow your sister-in-law. All right, so we look at this. So what's the context of what's going on? Naomi's telling her, look, I am old and I can't do anything for you. You young ladies have a chance for a new and better life. You are Moab women. Stay here, get remarried, and have a good life. You go with me, I got nothing for you. I'm old. If I get remarried again, I may have kids, but even if I have kids, you're going to have to wait for those kids to grow up, and then you're going to be old. So there's what Naomi is clearly pointing out is there's absolutely no benefit either today or tomorrow staying with me. I cannot provide for you, is what she's saying. She's too old to remarry. She can't take care of them. She won't have children again. The situation is as bleak as it could be. And Naomi is really outlining this for the ladies. Now, when we see here that Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, that she was saying goodbye. She was out. Okay, you make a good point. I'm going to go ahead and leave. Now, for some reason, Ruth clung to her and stayed with her. She was like, I'm not leaving. And Ruth probably, Naomi had some kind of impact on Ruth for Ruth to stay with her. And that's very important also. Now, the thing of it is, when we look at, when we break down and we see what's going on here, now, obviously, there's no benefits for the young women to stay with an old widow, this widow woman, Naomi. We see that, but some scholars tend to say that, maybe Naomi didn't want the girls to go back because then her people would see these Moabite women and say, well, her children married Moabite women, right? And I kind of understand where that comes from as far as a societal ostracization. That would have been looked down upon, but given this time and circumstances at this particular time, I don't think that was in her mind. And especially if I read what she's saying, this book is kind of an eyewitness account. So if I judge her just on what she's saying, I have to believe what she's saying. And what she's saying is there's just no benefit staying with me. She's kind of woe is me, but not in the point that she's looking for attention. She's just woe is me because it's true. So now, if this was, New Testament period, you'd probably have some ostracization or looking down on the family because of them marrying these Gentiles. I don't see that being an issue as I read this book. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Now, just to this point, Ruth and Orpah have been equals in the story, suffering the same losses and sharing a loyalty to Naomi. But Ruth's choice, reject conventional wisdom, changes everything. We're not criticizing Orpah for what she did, but the from this point on, the story switches to Ruth and away from Orpah, because obviously Orpah goes back to her people. Question: Why does loss draw some people closer to God while others struggle with anger towards God? Well, that's a good question. I think a lot of times, it depends on where we place God, and I explain that here in a minute. What I'm saying is, if your children are an idol, if your spouse is an idol, you're going to be very mad. You're going to be very upset. You're going to be very you're going to feel a lot of despair, in my opinion. But if God has His proper place in your life, then that's not to negate your grief. Don't get me wrong, but as far as the anger and the approach of the why God, why me God, I think it comes into a better focus than it would where you put these people in your lives. Again, we tend to idolize things in our lives. People are no different from that. So do we idolize our children? Do we idolize our marriage? Do we idolize our spouse? To the point that when we suddenly lose them, that these emotions take precedent over our faith, over what we know and what we lose focus in. That's my take on that. So, all right, second part is Ruth, chapter 1, 16, 18. But Ruth replied, this is her reply, don't plead with me to abandon you or to return and not follow you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Amen. Where you die, I will die, and where I'll be buried. And there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me and do severely for anything but if anything but death separates you and me. When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped talking to her. Okay. Yeah, so what we're seeing here is the arguments were melting away, and in light of Ruth's statements of fidelity, it really makes a difference because Ruth made her point, right? So she stopped talking to her, stopped trying to convince her that, hey, it's just not going to happen. Then I'm not going anywhere. Shut up about it, and so let's go forward. And so I took that as a point where it says stop talking to her. That stop trying to convince her to leave because she's not going to leave. And she made a bold declaration. She said, "Where you go, I go. Where you live, where I live, and where you die, I die. The only thing that's going to separate us is death. I'm going to be buried in your ancestral lands." Wow. And that's a pretty profound proclamation, in my opinion, because again, this is a Moabite woman, and she's going through great lengths to take down barriers between her and her in society, right? And the story lends itself to the fact that God's going to bless that courage and her taking such a great leap of faith, as we will see going forward. Question: what values does society place on loyalty? Wow, okay, that's a good question. I think the society places value on loyalty so long as it's there, obviously, and most of the time it's centered around some kind of gain, some kind of monetary gain, right? People are going to be loyal to you so long as you have something to give them. That's just fact, is it not? But in this case, Naomi's got nothing to give Ruth at all. She has no money. She has no name, no title. She's old. Naomi cannot give heirs. She's a widow. She's going to be living in poverty for the rest of her existence. Knowing that, Ruth decides to stay with her. Now, just by common sense tells me that obviously Naomi is older than Ruth. So Naomi's going to be old where she can't have children anymore, or if she could have children, she'd be way too old to take care of them. But Ruth has a chance to remarry. And that's very important. We're talking about a society where they don't have any social safety nets, no welfare, no Medicaid, nothing like that. We're talking about a society where women are considered property, and they don't have equal voice. They don't hold property. They don't own property. Wow. So, yeah. So Ruth is being loyal to Naomi, and this relationship probably developed and strengthened over, the marriage to Naomi's son, and it's just been there for years, and it's just never gone away. For Ruth to give up that possible future to remarry and possibly have some kind of security with another man, that's pretty profound. She is taking a major leap of faith. I mean, she's determined. There's not even a promise that life is going to be good. That's the take of all this. There's no promise. There's no guarantee any of this was going to happen, right? So, and she's still saying, hey, I'm with you through thick and thin, and chances are it's going to be pretty thin from here on out. And she's still willing to do that. That's pretty amazing, in my opinion. Ruth is a phenomenal young lady. Truly, she is. All right, let's wrap this up with provision. Chapter 2, 5:12. Boaz asked his servant who is in charge of the harvesters. Now, Boaz, here's a man that owns some fields, and he's letting these, they got this situation where, widows are taken care of by the, how do you say, the harvest that's not collected is not, when the harvesters go through and they collect the wheat and the grain, The stuff that falls by the wayside, they're not allowed to go back and pick up. It's left there for the widow. Okay, that is part of Mosaic law. Mosaic law. So in this case, Boaz has servants, and they're in the field, and he knows about these ladies. So he sees what's going on with all this. So let's move forward. Boaz asked the servant who was in charge of the harvesters, whose young woman is this? The servant answers, she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the territory of Moab. She asked, will you let me gather fallen grain among the bundles behind the harvesters? She came and has been on her feet since early morning, except that she rested a little in the shelter. Then Boaz said to Ruth, listen, my daughter, don't go and gather grain in another field, and don't leave this one, but stay here close to my female servants. See which field they are harvesting and follow them. Haven't I ordered the young men not to touch you? When you are thirsty, go and drink from the jars the young men have filled. She fell face down, bowed to the ground, and said, I have found favor with you, so that you notice me, although I am a foreigner. Then Boaz answered, everything you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband's death has been fully reported to me, how you left your father and your mother and your native land, and how you came to people you didn't previously know. May the Lord reward you for what you have done, and may you receive full reward for the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. Wow. Okay, there's so much here to unpack, and it's a beautiful set to follow up and end this with. So what he's saying is, he's taking notice of who she is and what she's doing. She's working hard, is basically what he's saying. Who's this young lady who is always out there working? She's not taking a break. She's not resting. She's up there since morning, and she has been always in his vision. You just imagine it when you're at work. I know when I'm at work and I see, as a supervisor and as a manager, general manager, as a district manager, people who work grab your attention right away. They just do. They work hard to get things done. They're always on the spot. They're always getting things done. They don't slow down, and that's pretty. And you want to reward that. You want to recognize that. You see it, and it's great to see in a person who has that kind of work ethic. Anyway, Boaz sees this in this young woman. Okay, now he doesn't know who she is. Chances are that he knows everybody in town. He knows who Naomi is, and he knows about her situation. That's why Naomi is there. So he doesn't know about this young woman. Who is she? Well, then the servant said, hey, well, she's here taking care of Naomi. Wow, okay. She's a foreigner. She comes to this land to take care of her mother-in-law, who she has no rights to do it. She has no reason to do it. Wow. Again, it's pretty profound looking at that. And Boaz, I think, was very impressed with this. And look at what he does. He extends his protection over her. You stay in my fields. No one will harm you. My men will not harm you. They will leave you alone, and you will stay and you will work in my fields. And stay close to my servants, so that my servants, you'll not be harassed. And look, you're looking at a Gentile woman drinking from the jars the young men's field. That's kind of unheard of, right? It's just one of those things where, Boaz is a very godly man, and he is taking care of his servants, he's taking care of his workers, and he's also taking care of the widows who are on the outliers of his fields. He's taking care of everyone. But he sees this young lady doing more than what she normally would do, and he sees she's got such a profound story. Again, a foreigner in a foreign land taking care of a widow. There's no future here, but yet here she is. And so he is very impressed with this, and he extends his protection to her. Ruth, on the other hand, falls down on face, and she's just so grateful. Is basically what she's saying. She has found favor, and she doesn't know why. But Boaz tells her, answers her, everything you've done has been a blessing. Everything you've done, you don't have to do this. You came into this land and dealing with people you don't know about. That's pretty amazing. So, and he's saying, may the Lord reward you for what you've done. You brought this lady back home. Naomi may have been like a high school friend of Boaz. We don't know, but he knew who Boaz was. He knew who Naomi was, and and he's very impressed with Ruth and the fact that she would come. It took a lot of courage for this foreigner to come to this land to do that. And I think Boaz he was laid out flat. He was just that impressed with this young woman. Just my opinion on this, reading this. Again, it's pretty amazing stuff when we look at it. So Boaz was happy to be an instrument of God's grace in the matter because Ruth had done for her mother-in-law. Yeah. I think he did the right thing because he knew what to do. To me, he was an upright, godly man. Because only an upright, godly man would have extended that kind of care in that case. All right, last question. How has God provided for you in a way that assures you of his care? Wow, in so many ways, through my health, through my job, through the well-being of my son, through my church, the prayers that we do for one another, the miracles that I see in God being close to those around me also is very profound. And seeing that just strengthens my faith. And I just want to be here with my church family. But it's a good question. How has God provided for you in a way that assures you of his care? Wow, sometimes he doesn't give me what I ask, but he provides everything that I need. So, counting that blessings would take a long time with this video, so we're not going to do that. All right, so looking at summarize the challenges. Number one, believers will suffer loss. Amen. Just because we're saved doesn't mean that we're set aside from loss, tragedy, grief, and those kind of things. Those things happen in the world. We're part of the world. And those things will happen. The difference is Christ. That's the difference in everything. Number two, we need to allow others to minister to us. Yes, that's a hard thing for me to as a Christian. I've been by myself for so long. Now, when I finally found a good church, it's kind of hard for me to open up and really let them pray for me, minister me, and those kind of things. And it's turned out to be wonderful. And I pray that we can, as a church, can do that for you as well. Third point, believers can be confident in God's sovereign ability to provide for our needs. Yes, amen. God will provide for us if we let him. Now, we're probably not going to see a pillar of fire or a pillar of smoke, but we're going to see it in the love and warmth and care and grace and prayers of our church family. That is fact, right? If you don't have that in your church family, find another church. Just being honest with you, that church is probably dead, and you could do better by that. At the same time, you could do better being more active in the church. Show that kind of love. Show that kind of promise, okay? Thank you for watching as always. I appreciate you watching the videos. If you have any questions, please fill them in the comments below. If you would, like and subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we post a video, you'll be notified of when those videos post on the channel. We'd love to have you here at Webb Baptist Wednesday nights. We are back to eating on Wednesday nights, and we start at 5:45, and then after our supper, we have our Bible study. And then we go some of these smaller groups, smaller kids and their ages. We have a class for every age. Go off to learn stuff, to do Bible studies. Sunday mornings, we meet for Bible study, Sunday school, and then we go into our worship hour. And we'd love to have you here for any and all of those worship services. We'd love to have you here as part of our fellowship and as our honored guests. If you can't make it to Webb Baptist, find you a Bible-based church and get plugged in and find out what God has in store for you. I guarantee you that he has something planned for you. He does. That church will be a blessing to you, and you will be a blessing to that church. We'd love for you to be a part of what we're doing here. If you can't be here, please plug in somewhere and find out what God has in store for you. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. Okay? Till next time, take care. God bless.